Hi guys, welcome to the first episode of the Depressed Arrow. This is the world's first Dance Dance Revolution hate podcast, dedicated to hating all things Dance Dance Revolution. And you might wonder why. Why did I decide to start a podcast about hating DDR when I've built up this channel for so many years? Well, I think the best way to explain it is to give a little anecdote about my arcade trip from last weekend. You know, I was at the arcade the other day, and I had gone to round one bowling and amusement to get a good practice session in with one of my local friends / rivals. And I had no expectations for my session. You know, I just hoped to get in, achieve a few high scores or perfect full combos, and that's it. I typically don't plan out arcade visits because I don't want to set myself up for disappointment in case my muscles are too sore or there are too many casual players waiting to take a turn and so on. So I was optimistic, but lo and behold, the session went terribly as usual. First off, there were tons of kids ruining the arcade experience for me and my fellow DDR players. There were two unaccompanied brats that were running circles around the rhythm game area and mashing on the nearby games. I don't know if you know this game, but there's a carnival ticket meeting game where you pull down on a plunger and it spins a huge wheel and it pays out some random amount of tickets. It's kind of like the big bass wheel that they have at Dave & Buster's. But it's kind of clown-coded. I know carnival clown stuff is kind of trendy nowadays. Well, these little kids kept running up to the Carnival Wheel game and lifting up the plunger without swiping to start the game. So they let go of the plunger, and it comes crashing down and making this terrible noise. They weren't even getting any tickets from it. It was driving me crazy. And every once in a while, a kid would come up to the DDR gold cabinet that we were playing on and ask if he could have a turn. Hello? I'm in the middle of a game here. The kid is lucky I didn't swat him away for interrupting my flow state when I'm practicing difficult songs for upcoming tournaments. He should simply be grateful that I'm giving him a master class on how to go beast mode. But you know, as I am a respectful arcade patron, I talked to the kid nicely like an adult, and I squatted down and I said, "Hey, it's just 3 more minutes, and we'll let you play. It's no big deal. But for now, just please stand off the side and don't bother me." And so the kid runs off. Well, do you think he came back in 3 minutes? No. My friend and I finished our game, and we looked expectantly around the arcade to see if he'd come running back and ask for a turn. But he was nowhere to be seen, of course. So we start a new session, and we get a few songs in, and what do you know? He comes running back, and he starts pouting and crying because we're hogging the machine. And so I say, "Listen up, kid. If you're not going to sit here and wait your turn, then maybe you should go over to the other side of the arcade and play something that's meant for children, like pop-in music or sound voltex. Otherwise, don't blame us for making the most out of our arcade session. We can't stand around waiting all day for someone to come up and play. Capiche?" So that's kids. You know how it is at the arcade. And the adults, don't get me started on the adults either, because they're even worse. They come up with so many dumb questions that they bug us with when we're playing. I'll give you some examples. Here's one. "Wow, you're really breaking up a sweat." This is not a question, but I hear this all the time. And it's like, good observation, Einstein. It's called a high-intensity cardiovascular activity. Do you go up to basketball players at the YMCA and say, "Wow, you're really throwing the ball into the hoop. Get out of here"? Another one I get is, "How long have you been playing?" Now, the thing I really hate about this question is that it's so vague. Do you mean in this game? Well, it's been about 5 minutes since I swiped my card. I played a couple songs, but I did get here around 3:30, so it's been about 2 or 3 hours in total. Now, if you're talking my entire life, I did start playing DDR for about 23 years ago when I was introduced to it in Reno, Nevada on my dad's work trip. Or maybe you mean video games in general. I started playing video games when I was about 6 years old on the Super NES. And by the time I get to this whole explanation, the timer has already run out and it's picked some random song that I didn't want to play. So nowadays I just say, hey, if you want to learn more about DDR, follow me on x.com. My handle is _Sesu if you'd like to learn more. I also have a really cool YouTube channel that you might want to check out. The other question that I think is pretty common is, do you memorize all the steps? How do you read that fast? And I'm like, come on, who do I look like? I'm Christopher Life, PieGuy314159 on youtube.com. No, I don't memorize every song. Well, I do watch about 45 minutes of Eurasian charts every evening, but that's sort of more as like an ADHD calming exercise. I usually don't tell people about this, but no, I don't memorize the songs. I could go on and on about all of the frequently asked questions I receive each time I visit the arcade, but I don't really want to waste your time. And I know that everyone watching this video is clearly well educated about dance gaming and the history of Konami, the rise and fall of rhythm games in the USA, the moral question of pirating DDR and playing at home. I just wanted to highlight how oppressed and objectified dance gamers are as a whole when they're playing in public. I mean, how can people be expected to set high scores in such a hostile environment? Imagine going to the gym. If you're not a DDR player, you might understand, but you go to the gym and you're squatting 3 plates, and kids are running up to you and tugging on your pant leg and standing directly in your range of motion and asking when they can have a turn. Or imagine if you're at the gym and a drunk weirdo comes up in the middle of your set and says, "Oh, how many times you come here a week and lift weights?" So it's just been it's really annoying. Now, to talk about my session a little bit, I've been working on fulfilling the requirements for the next rank in Life 4. And if you don't know what Life 4 is, it's a community ranking system that some really smart people have come up with for DDR players of all levels, and it gives you goals to work on to progressively get better. And one of the goals that most ranks require is raising your score floors. So you have to get every song at a specific difficulty level above a certain amount of points. So for example, just in my case, I'm working on raising my level 18 score floor above 950,000 points, which is pretty high. Now, level 18 is almost the highest difficulty in the game. So you would think that the songs in there would be badass, high BPM, EDM bangers, you know what I mean? Like 20 years ago, the boss songs might be Max 300 or Possession, but DDR has changed a lot. So now it's Toho songs or anime songs. There's a song called Trance Dance Anarchy that has these really grating Japanese vocals, and the chart is a nightmare. It has tons of jumps, which I'm not that good at. Not that I'm making excuses here, but the song doesn't really fit the difficulty range. And then there's this other song called Megalovania, which is a level 18 with shock arrows, which are basically a ripoff of Mines from In the Groove. Hello, superior dance game. And now, if you don't raise your feet off the dance pad high enough, you hit a shock arrow, and it makes everything on the screen disappear for like 5 seconds. And all the while, there's this meme video playing in the background from some indie game that nobody has ever heard about. So I can't score well on these songs. they're not fun to play and they don't cater to my specific music tastes and skill sets, so they're trash. But I'm forced to play them so I can get the next rank and get the acknowledgement that I sorely deserve from my peers in the community. So it's just kind of a struggle. So, after such an exhausting session, I realized that Dance Dance Revolution sucks. It's not a fun game. It's not an esport. It doesn't have the cool music from the 1990s that I used to enjoy. And it's not a helpful self-improvement tool. But I do have to play it because I'm kind of in this sunk cost fallacy kind of mindset. So I decided to just create this podcast to vent about the negative aspects of being a DDR fan and talk about how the game has declined in the last few years. This next segment is called Current Happenings, and I like to talk about some of the recent content that's been released in the game, just to keep things fresh. Last week, we got a new chart for the song Unis Nocturnal Days. It's a level 18, of course, and it's basically the worst chart I've ever seen. The song itself, you listen to it, and it's very well produced. It's chill. It has a piano in the background, and it's one of the recent DDR songs that I've actually liked. But the challenge chart they released is just a total arrow dump, all different colors and time signatures. I can't read it. You know, I was looking on YouTube, and a very intelligent DDR player commented,
"Seeing an 18 here feels really off for this song, especially when the song gives off much more chill, relaxing vibes compared to Golden League songs like Albacore or Muteki Buffalo. It's like Reiwa all over again."
I totally agree. Also, it has some very fast drill patterns, which I'm not good at. So, thanks Konami for once again ruining my level 18 folder average. Now, another song that's come out recently is called Ninth Outburst, and it's by this artist named Zek. Now, Zek is from South Korea, but he lives in Japan. He's a music producer, and he does a lot of work for rhythm games. Now, I won't lie, this song is kind of a banger. The chart is level 15, so it's kind of middle of the road, and it has some gimmicks and crossovers, but they're pretty manageable. So overall, I'm pretty happy with how the song and chart came out. One problem. It's locked behind this event called Golden League. And in this event, Konami forces you to go to the arcade every month and play to get points. Now, if you miss a month, your rank will go down, and you'll lose access to the songs that you already grinded for. God forbid you get sick or get in a car crash and you can't make it to the arcade for a few weeks. Even worse, the event is locked to the golden 20th anniversary DDR cabinets. And those have so many problems, I could do a whole other 25-minute podcast ripping them apart. And by the way, the gold cabinets don't even exist anywhere outside of the US and Japan. So, a little nationalistic much, Konami? Anyways, needless to say, I respectfully abstained from unlocking it and playing it. I guess I'll just wait 10 months until Konami gives me the privilege to play it on the white DDR cab, which I guess is for scrubs, is what they're saying. Okay, this last segment is going to be called Malbag, and it's where I go and read some comments from social media. Ideally, in the future, I'll have some people write in or send in a voice message to ask for advice or questions. But for now, we have an anonymous user on X who writes,
"If you play dance games primarily for H2H competition,"
I guess that means head-to-head competition.
"If you play for head-to-head competition as opposed to online competition, actively going for lamps, other than the clear/Life 4 ones, is a very dangerous path for overall growth."
These DDR Advice tweets always rub me the wrong way. I took it a little personal, and I may have gone a little far. I did report the tweet for terrorism, but I did feel a little bad, and I thought, okay, well, maybe this will be good advice, good material for my YouTube channel. So I rescinded the report. So my main issue with this tweet is that it insults me personally, and it belittles my playstyle. Maybe I love to go to the arcade and grind the same song for 4 hours. A few years ago, I was trying to get a perfect full combo on every level 14 song in the game. One of these songs is called B4U Voltage Special. If you've never played it, most of the song is very easy for level 14, but it has one specific passage that is just a total mess of arrows with ambiguous patterning, so it requires a lot of studying. I would go to the arcade for weeks after work. And this is when I was living in Korea, actually. So I took the bus about 30 minutes. I would get to the mall, and I'd grab a large ice Americano and just start grinding it over and over again until the arcade closed. And I used to get so mad. I'd start screaming into my towel, or I'd be kicking the selection buttons on that cabinet. And, sometimes a couple would walk by on a date or something, and they'd watch me play for a few minutes, which kind of distracted my focus. And now, I've always said I hate seeing happy couples at the arcade, so I would turn around and say something like, "What are you looking at? Am I just a dancing monkey to you?" Usually they'll walk away awkwardly or laugh nervously and go do something else. One time the manager came up to me and asked me to calm down, so I just said that they were recording videos and laughing at me or harassing me or something. So they weren't allowed to come back to the arcade after that. That kind of helped me. That's a good tip. If you're getting distracted at the arcade, you can talk to the manager. But anyways, after about 100 plays, I did finally achieve the perfect full combo on the song, and it sealed my level 14 gold lamp. It was one of my proudest accomplishments in DDR. Did it really help my overall growth, as this user says? Well, that's debatable. I did get bragging rights, and I did get about 35 likes on my Twitter post. And that was this huge dopamine hit to me, and it really made me happy and kept me motivated to keep playing for the rest of the session. So after that, it was on to the next goal. So hey, if you see someone grinding the song over and over again, maybe give them a little respect. Rome wasn't built in a day, and you don't get quality results without a little elbow grease and discipline. Anyways, that's about it for the first episode of my podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for supporting me over the years, even though I haven't put out too much content lately. I really think this is a good concept. There are so many things that I have to complain about as a DDR player. Next week, I'll be talking about why there's too much Japanese music in Dance Dance Revolution and why Konami hates their American audience. So that will be a constructive discussion. Do you have any things that you hate about DDR? Make sure you leave them in the comments below, and I will talk to you soon.